it's difficult, right? You always still have that hope, right? That it's not real, and that you're probably having and I'm gonna say it as it is, right? Probably living in a nightmare.
That's Edwin. That's this week's dad. Stay tuned. This is Life with Jemmy and More, the podcast. Welcome, and thank you for tuning in today. Every 2 weeks, I talk to dads with children who need a little bit more help, whether it be special needs, disabilities, rare disease, or extra needs. Some dads can feel very alone in this journey, like I did for 11 years. Putting this podcast together and getting it out there to those I hope who need it has only been possible with the support of Junko, my amazing and supportive rock star wife, Joshua, who made the beautiful music for the show on his iPad, and of course Jamie. If it wasn't for Jamie, this would not even be here. So thank you, Jamie, for doing this, and thank you for allowing me to help myself, which allows me to help others. Before we get started, I just want to let you know that this podcast does come with a language warning. So please be aware, it's probably not for kids' ears. Edwin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, mate.
So we have spoken on the phone, Edwin, before.
Yeah.
And I think we spoke for about an hour or over an hour.
I think more than almost 2 hours.
Almost 2 hours, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's actually really important. I never used to do that because I wanted it to be, I just wanted to kind of jump straight in. But actually, I've realized that having these conversations before we sit down and do the podcast, that actually is really important for you, the dad, important for me, to kind of, really to get to know each other, and it helps us be a bit more real about what we're talking about, because the shit's real. Like, the shit is not, we're not talking about flowers. We're talking about real stuff that affects us on a daily basis, and it is tricky. So we have had a reasonable conversation before, but here we are now. And again, welcome to the show, because
thank you.
I'm really excited to hear your journey as dad, Edwin. So can you tell us, Edwin, about you and why you're on the podcast?
Thank you. Well, Edwin Garcia. I was born and raised in Mexico. Moved to the States 4 years ago. So now I'm based and live in Chicago. And the main reason why I'm on this podcast is I have the wonderful opportunity of raising a kid with Down syndrome. So that's a lot of what I'm doing. Why I'm here on the podcast today. Yeah. I think to probably share some stories and have a friendly conversation with an old friend, right?
Yeah.
Even though we met a couple of weeks ago, we had a really nice chat, like old friends.
Yeah.
And we shared some good stories and I guess questions, right, around things that you're still living, that you think, and if you're doing the best that you can, right, to support the little ones, which is basically why we're here, right?
Exactly. And your man is called Tiago.
Yes.
How old is Tiago?
Tiago is now 2 years and 4 months old.
I love that.
And
I love that when we start counting the months. That's always a great sign when you actually get that month counting stage, right?
yeah,
So
yeah. Eventually, you're gonna lose track of it, but at the moment, he's in between trying to just get into that 3-year-old toddler age
yeah,
and the terrible tooth. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh man,
Mm,
fantastic. So okay, um, let's go. Let's go back a little bit
yeah.
to and tell us how Diego kind of came on the scene here. So let's wind it back. And what was the going into this? Did you have any? Was there any pre-screening going on, or you guys were just like, we're not having that. We're going. And what was the? How did that look?
Yeah, well, at first we, or at least my wife gave me the news around February, the last week of February, probably the first week of March, that we were gonna have a kid, right? So
Right.
you're so excited about the idea
Mm.
um, after looking for that opportunity for a couple of years, and we've been together for quite a long time, probably 10 plus years. So we traveled, we did a lot of stuff. So I think we were ready, right, to just have a kid. So this happened right before the pandemic started. The
Mm.
pandemic, I think, started on the second week of March or somewhere around there. So it happened in a very weird lapse of time, right?
Mm.
Between that last week of February, then the entire world shuts down, and now you have to go to the doctor to bring, your partner or your wife, and then you're not allowed to be in the room, and you have
Right.
to wait on the parking lot, right?
So so this is so you found out your wife said to you, I'm pregnant. And this is
Mm-hmm.
in 29 no
2020.
2020, wasn't it? Yeah, okay. So that was
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
so and then a month later COVID comes on the scene.
Yes.
Um and then that whole kind of journey goes through what like um what did that kind of look like for you, and how was that? Because that I guess yeah, what was there any yeah, the kind of I talk about the pre-screening because that's sometimes a big thing for people, and some people
Yeah.
know it, don't know it. Even sometimes they don't even know if it's going to be a boy or girl. So which is actually really interesting and fun. Well, how was that for you?
Well, like I said, I think at first you have all the adrenaline and
Mm,
the joy of that, you're gonna be a father, right?
mm,
Um, and the first couple of screenings was obviously I wasn't there. It was actually, I guess now it's funny, but my
mm,
wife was texting me some videos that she was taking from the ultrasound,
mm.
right? It
Right.
was kind of like the first time I heard my son's heartbeat. It was
Yeah.
from
Right.
a video that my wife sent me from her phone because she was there and I was in the parking lot.
Yeah, you're in the parking lot because of the pandemic, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, all the hospitals here in the U.S. When they shut down, there was just one parent and nobody else was allowed to enter.
Mm,
So I was waiting on the parking lot every time that I was staying here to her appointments. And I do remember that during the first couple of screenings, they said they were seeing something, but they were not sure. It wasn't conclusive, right?
mm,
And then on, I think it was the third screening that they did, they finally said that it was almost sure that he was going to have Down syndrome, right? They
mm.
started to find a couple of things when they were doing the ultrasound,
Right. Okay.
especially on his heart, on his belly, and also here around his neck, right? So
Okay.
there were kind of like clear signs of Down syndrome, but still nothing conclusive. Um, but what I remember during that time is that I was in a meeting on the parking lot,
Mm,
like a work meeting, um, taking a call, and then I see my wife coming to the car, and she was crying, right? I'm in the middle of the call, and I was like, well, what should I do, right? So I said, you know what, I have something urgent, have to leave. I see my wife. She gets in the car, and she tells me, this is what they told me, that we could have a kid with Down syndrome. And she started crying like crazy, right? I'm usually a person who, I guess, controls a lot of his emotions, right? Not sure if that's good or bad, but I tend to sometimes not cry at all. So when I heard that, I was like, got me by surprise, obviously, because you're always thinking, oh, it's going to be my first child. You have a lot of expectations, right? When you hear that, or when you know that. But once you hear that there could potentially be something, then a lot of thoughts starts to come around through your mind, right? And, oops, how's that going to happen, or how's that going to be? Why, right? A lot of those questions that you start to ask yourself. And I'm not. This is not meant to be a whole drama, but at the same time, like I told you, we were new, like living here in the States, right?
Yes,
so
exactly right.
We were kind of like trying to get our heads around the healthcare system, because we were not familiar with it. So we didn't know what to say, what to expect, what to ask during those. And then you add the component that even though my wife and myself, we speak English, it's not our native language, right? So yes, I do use English for my job and for everything that I do, but never for medical reasons, right? So I think sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to try to ask for some things that you're more used to, I guess, saying Spanish.
So,
for
real. Yeah.
So I think it was a big adjustment as well for both of us to just try to say, hey, it is what it is, and we have to try to adjust to the life that we have now, right? For starters. And then also our family, all of our family is back in Mexico. So we're here by ourselves. So that's another one, right? I think that also helped our marriage to be even stronger, right? When we got the first news. And then after that, I have to say that, after that first screening that we got the first diagnosis, it was like, there's still some hope that this is not real, right? So she went and asked for another test, which is the Harmony test, which is, I think it's a blood testing.
Yeah, right.
They delivered the results probably like 14 days later. And when we opened the envelope, it said that it was 99% the possibility of having a kid with Down syndrome. Out of all the genes and genetics and everything that they were able to find on that.
How did you win at that time? Can you take us back to that? Because I think this is points where sometimes at the times you just can't, you process it but not process it. And that is when you're like, everyone deals with that situation very differently, right? Can you dive back into that time when you were like, okay, what for you, for you yourself, like how was that?
It was I have to say that, and I've heard that also, right, from other parents that you have had on the show, is it's difficult, right? You always still have that hope, right, that it's not real, and that you're probably having and I'm gonna say it as it is, right, probably living in a nightmare. But because it's something that it's the unknown. You've never been in that situation, so you don't know what to expect, right? So that's kind of like one of the first things when we. Same thing. My wife had to go to the doctor's office, got the envelope, but she was by herself. So obviously she didn't want to open it until she was with me in the car.
Right. Okay.
So again, we knew about it on a parking lot, right?
It's where it all
So
happens, in
yeah,
the parking lot, hey? In COVID, a lot of it.
yeah,
You mustn't be alone with this as well. I guarantee there's like this has
yeah,
happened to a lot of
yeah,
people, right?
yeah, and then I think you have even more time to think about it because you're pretty much at home 24/7 because you cannot get out from there just for
Mm,
grocery shopping, right? Even if you want to go somewhere else, you have to be wearing a mask and it's pretty risky. And at that point was just starting.
mm,
So
yeah.
you were able to see that a lot of people were dying and all the statistics and they were showing everywhere in the news, all of that. So it was really unknown to just it was
Mm,
like, should I be
mm,
somewhere out there?
yeah.
So the fact that we were just by ourselves in the parking lot, not a lot of people, honestly, not a lot of cars in the parking lot. So it was basically ourselves and some other patients. She opened the envelope and she showed me that it was a 99% chance of having a kid with Down syndrome. And she started crying again, right? My wife she's very sentimental. So obviously, I think it was a little bit harder for her, just,
Mm,
probably process it. Um, for me, in like right away, you I work in logistics, right? And I think our mindset is always, okay, what are we going to do to try to solve it, right?
mm,
So I think that probably that was my approach, right? It's
mm.
like, okay, we're in this situation. I was still, I guess, processing it,
Yeah, yeah.
but I always had like that mindset of, okay, we're in this situation. What are we going to do, right?
Mm,
Let's try to see if we can get a second opinion. Let's see if we can ask some other doctors. My wife is a dietitian, um, and she knows a lot of doctors, right, back in Mexico. So we started to call all of our network, right,
mm,
on doctors that were her friends. Like,
mm,
what do you think about this? Should we doing something else? Should I be asking the doctor, or what should I be asking the doctor, right? Just make
mm.
sure that that we're having a real idea of this. And we had a really pleasant um, call with one of her friends. He's also a doctor, and I think a lot of what gave us some peace of mind is that, hey, you know what? Even if that's the case, kids with Down syndrome are amazing. Um, and I guess hearing that from a doctor standpoint,
Mm,
it's it's relieving, right? At some
mm.
point, it's like, okay, and on our native language,
Yeah.
someone that knows us and knows how we operate. So I think it explained a lot of what these harmony tests um, comprises and all
Yeah.
of that, right? But at the end, I think what he mentioned and I can remember that like really 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 specifically, and it was,
Mm.
even if that's the case, those kids are adorable and they're good.
It's interesting, isn't it? How
Yeah,
those kind of moments where people say something and it's so profound that it stays with you, and it always stays with
yep,
you, right?
yep,
Um, and it's such a and the good thing is that is such a positive um thing to stay with you, because um it can be the opposite, right? But that's
yep,
actually, it's amazing, and that I guess um gave you and your wife um, some real comfort, which is what you need, right? At that time,
yep,
what you needed
yep,
of, okay, we were going into the unknown anyway with having a child,
mm-hmm,
because as being a parent is like, just becoming a typical parent
yep,
is challenging enough, right? Because we've never been a parent before, like, because this
mm-hmm,
is our first time. Um, and then we're thrown this ball. You were thrown a ball of like, well, actually, yeah, you're going to be a parent, but it's going to look different. We don't know how it's going to look different, but it's going to look pretty different to a lot of other um, parents out there, and that's challenging. That's a challenging
yeah,
thing to have happen, and even and this is happening even before the baby is brought into the world, right?
yep, mm-hmm,
um, Okay. And there's so many factors here at play, Edwin, and I think it's like, and like the fact that you moved into the States, you're on your own, you got COVID, this is your first child, all this stuff, right? Ha, is real, right?
Yep.
This
Yep.
is not just like um, trying to you know get have some kind of normality in your life, and then here we go. Okay, yes, your child that you're going to have um, may
Hmm.
may have Down syndrome, um, and it's and all this kind of sometimes at the time and sometimes later on um, can give us, you know, can cause us a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety
Yeah. Yeah.
as parents, as guys. And I'd come back to that guy thing, and I'm not, and I talk about the guy thing because we are guys. We can
Yeah.
have that conversation, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
And there are women are amazing in this. I, you know, like my wife is just an absolute superstar, and I feel very inferior to my wife a lot of the time. Um, and I, but I'll come back to that a little bit later on. But we can have that conversation about how we as dads feel
Yep.
because that shit isn't talked about, and we typically guys don't talk about it
Yep.
because we're I don't know who who did you like with all this going on, who was who did you kind of like talk to that was, did you have anyone to actually, you know talk to basically around that time?
My parents. I
Mm,
think they were her saving grace.
mm,
I think both of our parents, they have been really, really supportive through everything that we have gone through, right? Even before the pregnancy and all that, they always have been there for both of us, my parents and her parents. So um, we don't see them as parents. I think they're
mm,
like really amazing friends.
mm.
So even though we have a lot of good friends uh, around us and back in Mexico, I guess that network that we have always is it's our parents.
Mm,
So the first people that I think we went to probably deliver the news of that possibility were our parents.
mm,
Um, I have a brother that he's younger than me. He has three kids. My wife has other two siblings, and they were parents already. So we were kind of like the last ones, right, on having
right.
kids. So all my parents have or have had the chance of experiencing, what's having a grandson, right?
Yep.
Um, and then the last couple of all the pack comes with this news, and obviously it was different, right?
Mm,
It was first of all, it was great when we delivered the news that we were expecting a child,
mm,
but then along the road, they also saw that we were kind of suffering, right, a little bit, instead of
mm,
enjoying the pregnancy, because
right.
every time that we were going to the appointments, there was something new coming, right?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, this looks like this looks like that, this looks like this. Nothing really conclusive during the first couple of ones until we got the tests and all that uh, so they were living, I guess, the situation as we were living it, like in
Mm.
parallel, right?
Yeah, yeah, right.
Uh, so that was a lot of the support that we had during that rough time. I have to be honest. Like I said, we had a network of friends here
Yeah.
that we were really open to it since day one. But it's not your family, right? It's not your
Yeah, it's
direct
different.
family. It's not your direct
It's different, yeah.
blood. So um, and also those friends, even though we loved them, they were great and they supported us along the road as well, but they didn't have kids at the time, right? So we were also experiencing that for the first time around the group. So there was nothing that was able to fit in there. So the family was definitely that anchor, right? That helped us to go around this and cope with the situation.
Okay. Going forward a little bit now, and when in the day of his arrival, can you tell us that how that was for you, and just how it all was, because that's when things become more real, that it changes, it becomes clearer, or sometimes not, for some people. So how'd that look?
It was obviously, again, unexpected, right? A lot of unknown after all the, I guess, different things that we went through with a lot of doctors. I think we had really a really good doctor that was taking care of Vale, my wife. And when he had duodenal atresia, that's one of the things that they found on the screenings. And my wife had a lot of fluid, right? So we needed to be on appointments every week to just make sure that it wasn't growing or being more, and if they needed to drain it. So it started to get a little complicated from there, right? Like getting real that even your wife's life is in danger. So it's like, okay, we need to be really careful on everything that we're doing. So the doctor recommended to induce my wife like 20 days earlier. They were setting up the date for the November 21st. And then he ended up being like early November. Funny fact is that my birthday is November 1st. And when the doctor said that he wanted to induce my wife, he came to me or us, and he said, "When do you want him to come here into this world?"
Right.
So I was like so excited and said, "Let's do November 1st." But unfortunately, it was a Sunday, so I guess doctors they don't like to work on Sundays. He said, "I can do November the 2nd." And I was like, "Okay, that's fine for me."
That's fine.
So Diego was born in November the 2nd. So that's another part that I guess we share, right? I knew that my birthday is not going to be relevant anymore, but at the same time, we had to celebrate at the same time. So I think that's one of the positives as well that I can tell you, right? When it started to get real, at least we know we were excited. And it's like, okay, let's have it on November 2nd. The other funny fact is that my brother was born on November 1st as well, but 2 years apart. So I always have shared my birthday with my brother, and now I'm sharing it with my kid. So I think until I die, I'll be sharing my birthday with someone, and nothing more special than doing it with my kid. But going back to the situation, it was my wife was induced for, like I said, November 2nd. And you don't know what to expect, right? You arrive to the hospital one night earlier. We both don't know what's going to happen, right? My wife
still in COVID.
knows,
this is still
this is still COVID. Yeah, this is still COVID. This is still COVID. So I have to be wearing obviously the mask and all of that on the hospital. And my wife and myself, obviously, it was the first time that we were experiencing this thing, right? Like having a baby. And my wife has like a lot of recommendations from her sister, aunties, moms, all of that. But not until you're there, you start to experience the whole thing. So long story short, when Tiago was born, I was somewhere around 1:30 p.m. on November the 2nd. I think I told you at the beginning that I'm not a very sentimental person, and it takes a lot of things to make me cry.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that day when I was seeing his head popping out,
yeah.
I was crying like a baby.
Right, yeah.
Uh, it was something that I guess I wasn't. It's not that I wasn't aware, but it was. I don't know. It wasn't like I don't know. I couldn't
Mm.
believe it right
Do you
until he was here,
mm,
until he was getting
mm.
out.
Yeah.
So when I saw his face popping out and I mean his head and and then all of a sudden the entire body came out of my wife. It was like, wow, he's so
Uh.
small, right? And I started to cry. And
It's nothing
then the
like a
next,
TV show, right?
no, no, not at all, not at all, not at all. And I think the only thing that it's real is that we as parents we're trying to do the
Yeah.
same thing as moms, right? Push, 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 and you're making all the faces, just try to make sure that everything is fine and holding their hands. But uh, after that, it was like a different experience, right? From some other parents probably because we only had the chance to be with Thiago for
Mm.
15 minutes, no more than that.
Right. Wow. 50, just the first
Yep,
15 minutes, and then
yep.
he was taken
Then
away,
they took him to the NICU,
right?
and they said that let's go to the NICU. We're gonna take you to where he's gonna be for the next month.
Wow.
So
So they actually said he's going to be in there for the next month.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And why was that? What was he was going in
Uh,
there for that long for?
he was gonna need the duodenal arteria surgery first, and then they needed to confirm everything that they saw on the screenings at first, like the heart condition,
Right.
because there was probably an open heart surgery that he was going to need during the first couple of months. Then the duodenal arteria that needed to operate that like in the first 15 days.
Right.
So there was a lot of care that he was going to need during that month.
Mm.
So that's why that was the decision of the doctors to just make sure that he was going to be fine. So I guess
Sorry, had they told you that before he was born that he would go into there for a month? You knew that already,
no, not that he was going to be there for a month, but that
right?
he was probably going to have some surgeries like
Okay,
right away.
right.
Hmm.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, we didn't know that he was going to stay there for a month. Um, it was like again still COVID times,
Yeah.
so parents were not allowed to be there at the same time.
Mm.
So we have to make like different shifts. It was an
Yeah.
and we had like time limitations, right? So it was three
Right.
hours total. So I was doing an hour and a half. My wife was doing another hour and a half. So it was like I said, a little different than every time that I was going back home, for either clothing or whatever.
Yeah.
You were seeing a lot of parents just driving home with their kiddos, right, already on
Mm.
the on the car seat, and we were there every day,
How
right? So
did I that's an interesting situation, right? That
mhm,
happens, and I remember I kind of like you saying that kind of I start to kind of think back to um when Jamie was in the hospital, and I would see all these, babies kind of heading home or in and out, and and there was the I am I think I was just like, what is going on? Because with my world, but there was also me kind of looking over and being like, wow, that's very different to what is going on in my world now.
yeah,
Um, and I guess there would have been, there must have been jealousy because like that's a kind of natural reaction to have is that
yeah,
I must have looked over and you know and gone, yep, well, you get to take your kid home.
yeah.
That's not happening for me at the moment. That is my kids in ICU. Um, was that like how was that for you?
I think for me at the moment, you're just trying to. probably it's looking very extreme, but you're just trying to survive, right? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're just trying
yeah.
to go with the flow, because it's still something that you're experiencing for the first time. So you don't,
Mm,
even though you're seeing other parents leaving the hospital,
mm.
you don't know how that is, right? You're just living the
Yeah, yeah,
moment
that's a good point actually. Yeah.
as he's taking you. So you're just probably just reacting
Mm,
to what is going on, right?
yeah,
At that time, I think you see stuff, but you don't question it, right?
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
just go with the
It's
flow,
just, yep,
and
yep.
it's like, well,
This
this
is
is
it,
my
right?
situation, right? Yeah,
It is what it is, and I'm
and then
not
you
there. I'm over
see
here. Yeah.
exactly, and then when you go to the NICU or ICU, well, you see other kids, right,
Mm,
and other parents that are going
mm,
through the same things as you're going through, and sometimes even worse, right?
mm,
That's another, I guess, point that hit me at that time, right? It's like,
mm.
okay, yes, we are in a difficult situation, but then you see the rest of the parents when you're visiting your child and they're coming back and forth, and it's like, shit,
Mm,
we're good, right? Even though with
yeah.
everything that is happening, we're good.
And,
Um, and yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's different, right? It's something that nobody tells you how's that going to be.
no,
And at that point, you don't have even a network still
no, you don't, do you? You haven't
on,
even got time to even
yeah,
create that
on
network,
the
right?
exactly, and mostly on the Down syndrome side, right? It's like you
Mm,
don't have nobody there who is going to explain you what are you going to go through, and if you're going to be okay or not, or how the surgery is going to be. Is it going
mm,
to be long? Is it going to be short? You're just hearing everything from the doctors, and that's what we want to do. That's what we're going to do. That's what this is going to happen. You go with the flow, right?
mm,
Even when they are performing the surgery, you're just signing papers and you're
mm.
trusting that they are going to take care of your kid.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's all that you can do, right? As a responsible parent for
Mm,
trying to take care of your kid, it's like the doctors are telling you that this is going to be, I guess, part of the solution.
yeah,
You're just signing up the papers, right?
yeah, yeah.
So a lot of that, I think you just don't realize what you're getting into, and you just go with the flow. I think you're, yeah, I have to say that sometimes I tell this to my parents, you're in
Mm,
auto mode, right? Whatever is happening, you're just reacting and
mm,
doing everything that you need to do. After that time, I guess that good month that we were coming back and forth,
mm.
um, and you bring him home, then you
Yes,
start
that's
to see
yeah.
how different it is, right?
Yes,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
You
because
because you're in
I
that
think,
that kind of you're in that mode for that month. Is that you're literally that's your world.
yep, yep,
Um, and you're unable to. It's very difficult to extract yourself. Um,
mm-hmm,
even when you come home. I'm trying to remember this. I think I would like come home from seeing Jimmy at the hospital, um, and the visiting hours were obviously, you know, well, they were limited,
mm-hmm,
just the way that the Japanese hospital system works here. But so you'd kind of come home, and what would be really weird is that you would come home and you would be thrust back into your normal world
mm-hmm,
of like, I'm almost a parent that I'm not even a parent anymore, you know.
yeah, yep,
Um, and so uh, I would come home, I would get into my job, and I'd just kind of be teaching, and but at the back of like I'm sure as hell, and I'm pretty sure this was the back of my mind. It was always like, like what's like when I stopped working, I'd be like, okay, wonder what's going on now. How's Jamie? Oh, we're going there tomorrow, or we go there. I think we'd go sometimes like twice a day, or um,
mm-hmm,
but there was almost like two worlds living. I was living in
yep,
two worlds, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, and trying to operate in both those worlds. Um, it's really, really such a weird situation to be in.
yeah, no,
Um,
no, absolutely, absolutely, and like you're saying, I think that it kicks in once. once your baby is at home, right? Because
Yeah.
once he was on the NICU and we were going back and forth, you're still not fully experiencing the parental life, right? It's like, okay, at night I can sleep 8 hours because I know I'm going to wake up the next day. He's still not here. He's in the hospital. Somebody else is taking care of him. But once he comes home, and the other difficult piece is that it comes with instructions, right? For us parents that we have a kid with Down syndrome, they come with instructions, right? On, okay, he cannot feed himself yet, right? Unfortunately, my wife couldn't nurse him, so he has been a baby, like a formula baby, like his entire time. He has a dairy allergy, so he was not able to have like regular and whole milk. So starting from there, it's just, how do you get the formula, right? You get the special formula. Then he's not able to swallow the entire volume in 10 minutes. So we have to bring one of those big machines to give the different portions, and it was 145 minutes, X amount every 3 hours. So even when we were sleeping, we were having like same, right? We were having different shifts. Like one night it was me, one night it was my wife, because we had to wake up at 3 a.m. just to feed him and prepare the formula, put it on the machine, and just let it go.
So this is an interesting thing. So this was was it like an IV? Was it an IV?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because he had an NG tube.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay, so NG tube going in, and I've heard a lot about. I think it was Casey, one of my couple of guests. He was saying that, like, was it came out, and then you have to put it back in or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, you had to do this yourself, and he's like, yep, that's right. I'm like, holy shit! Like, this is
they give you everything. They give you all the instructions. They give you the training, because you cannot take your kid home if you're not fully trained. You don't have the training to just do it by yourself.
Yeah.
So that's why I was saying they come with instructions, right? Because with the NG tube, it's really easy for the kids or the babies just
pull it out, right?
Just to move and pull it out. So yeah, it happened a lot of times, and we had to do it. Even you're trained with the stethoscope, try to hear the blow and all of that stuff if the NG tube is correctly there. So that's what when you leave the hospital, and I guess doing that same analogy that we were talking about, right? With you see other parents taking their kids with no issues, then you're bringing your kid with a bunch of equipment that you have to install at home. And then the other piece that was complicated, it was that when he was on the NICU, they connected, they said it's a PICC line that goes like an IV.
Okay.
So he had a blood clot on his left arm.
Okay.
So with that, obviously it took a little longer to take him out of the hospital. He needed to have his levels correctly, and that was another piece that we had to do when we brought him home. It was like we needed to give him some shots in order to make sure that he was going to be fine from the clot. So it was not just the equipment, not just the machine, not just the formula. It was also the syringes. It was also the shots. It was also all of that you don't think you have to do to your baby, right? Once he's born, instead of sometimes probably enjoying some good time. It's a lot of the care that you have to have during the day. On top of
it's so much more, isn't it? And on
top of bad
the regular stuff
and,
that you
and regular
do,
stuff,
right?
exactly. So it's hard, and I think it's a task that for sure one person can't do, right? And like you were saying, you live in these two worlds where my job is definitely asking me to do or give my 100%, but at the same time I have to give 120% at home with my baby. And even though it was the pandemic and we were still working from home, you cannot get detached, right? You still have to deliver results at work, and you also have to be here with your family, which is the priority at the moment. So, and I think also when you go back to, I guess, my manager and the company, they understood a lot of what I was going through. They were really supportive as well. So I think that was also a great thing to have, like that support from the company and from my managers. I think
really important,
that gave me a lot of peace of mind, right? To just try to be more flexible.
Yeah.
And even though we were living in these two worlds, at least I was sure that, some of those things also come into your head, right? Like, am I going to lose my job if I don't put 100% of my effort because I'm doing all this? So I think that the company that I work for is definitely really human, and they think a lot about people. So I think for that, at that point, I just, forgot about, I'm secure at my job, so I can focus on that other piece that right now is important,
Right.
which is my family.
Which would have been huge, because I think as a man, as a dad, like through in societies, like we feel as dads that, like, a lot of the, not all, but a lot of the pressure of kind of being able to provide comes to us as dads, which I think, which is changing, which is really good. But there is pressure that we feel that we, as the man, as the dad, that we have to provide, but we don't. we do, but we don't. We just need to be, we've got to be real about it, right? And I think that starts with kind of being real about a whole lot of things that are going on in our world, but being able to feel that we are, with our job is okay. That's huge, because we can just be like, okay, that's cool. They understand. I can then help and support and be the dad that I want to be. I need to be. So you get Tiago home. He's got this NG tube going on. How long does he have that for?
He had that for 3 months.
3 months.
But then the doctors recommended to put a G tube, right, on his belly, like straight to his belly. So they were just basically drilling a hole on his guts and just putting a tube in there to feed him. I think easier than doing it on the NG tube. So that was kind of like another shocking moment to us, right? It's like, okay, so the worst part is not over, right? We still have to go to another surgery in the first 6 months, right? I guess on a time period of 5 to 6 months, you already have your kid with 3 surgeries or 2 surgeries, right? And thank God I've never been in a surgery in 41 years, but then you see your kid going through that in less than 6 months, right? So I guess it also makes you appreciate a lot of the things that you usually take for granted, right? I think one of the main things that for us, for my wife and myself, he's still teaching us a lot in terms of how to be a warrior, right? I think these kids are warriors. They go through a lot at a very I guess early age, right? And that I don't know if I'm able to tolerate a lot of that stuff, but obviously they still don't know, but they are going through a lot of that stuff, where kids shouldn't, right? Sometimes kids shouldn't be going through a lot of that stuff at that early age. So we got that recommendation from the doctors to just have the G tube, and we did it. We had a lot of doubts as well. We try to have conversations with other parents that they had the same situation, how risky, how difficult, how low or high maintenance was as well, because at the end it was really high maintenance, right? it's still a hole that it's drilling there, and that you have to clean. You have to make sure, yeah, it doesn't get infected.
Right.
So it's a wound that it's definitely open in there. So you have to
Yeah.
constantly be taking care of that. So
And I guess that kind of what we kind of it's funny, isn't it? Because you talk about it like it's because obviously that's what was going on, right?
mhm,
And I never had that experience of having a,
mhm.
NG tube or a G tube. Um, but that kind of stuff poses real problems because you can't just go and throw the baby into the bath, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Um, you have to do it very differently.
Yeah. During the first couple of days or weeks, yes. After that, then you can even, you know, he was already having like swimming lessons with the G tube in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Okay.
After a while, you can do it. I think the first couple of days, but you have to be really careful, right? That you have to
Yeah,
clean
right.
everything like really, really, really good, and make sure that you're putting all the lotion and all the recommendations that the doctors are giving you. But during the first couple of days, yeah, I think it was the first week or so, we were not able to bath him at all until we made sure that everything was fine and that it was
Gotcha.
not. But same as the G tube, the NG tube, right? It's it's something that could just pop out, and you have to be
Mm,
prepared to have a replacement and put it on yourself, right?
jeez, man.
Or either go through the ER and they can do it, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard to see all of that stuff because, like I said, we experienced that a couple of
Mm,
times of that. So obviously it's a lot of assets and stuff that it's exposed right on the
yeah.
inside. So it could break, it could pop, it could something. So you always have to have like a backup,
Yeah, yeah.
just
You've got to make
bottom
sure
to
you've got
just do it.
everything there, right? But
Yeah.
that's a
So you're
sorry, man.
traveling everywhere even when you're going to a restaurant, even when you're going to somewhere, you're you're always bringing like a huge backpack. It's not just with
Mm,
diapers; it's with all of this stuff,
it's with everything else, right?
right? So it looks like you're moving houses every time
Yeah,
that you're stepping out
yeah, yeah,
home. Yeah.
for real. And then yeah, and it's a different world, man.
Hmm.
It's a very different world that that we live in because it's um that's the that's the Holland, right?
Hmm.
The poem
Hmm.
which I think you know about Welcome to
Yeah.
Holland,
Yeah. Hmm.
um, and going out like that with so much more. Um, and it's funny talking about this because it always brings back memories for me about things that we did. Um, yeah, things that we did that just became very normal,
Hmm.
um, and we
Yeah.
just did it because Jamie had a he's had a lot of intestine issues from day one, and they still continue to this day. And one of the he had basically he had a he was born with no anus, and so they had to uh, essentially they had to cut and create an
Hmm.
anus and pull the intestine
Hmm.
down. So it was all surgically made. Um, anyway, uh, I remember now, and I again I kind of I get flashbacks to this is that he would get very bloated,
Yeah.
um, and it would be very easy to kind of tell because you could just tap his tummy and it was it's kind of like a balloon,
Hmm.
um, and so we were given these you had these little straws. We used to get them. The doctor would prescribe them, and we would have like 100 of these straws at home, and we would go out. We'd throw them under the bottom of the pram or pushchair, whatever we had, or in
Hmm.
the backpack, and we would have to keep regular checks on them because basically, um, you actually realize how much gas we walk around with,
Hmm.
how much hot air we're all filled with,
Yeah.
and anyway, so we would have to uh, we would lie him down in the pram a lot because this was logistically it was really easy for us to we had to basically it was probably I don't know, say
Hmm.
a ruler length cord, and you would have to insert it into his anus.
Hmm.
And the moment you would kind of insert it into there, you could hear the air coming out of the bottom of the back of the straw.
Hmm.
But I remember one of the doctors saying, "Oh, what you can do if you're unsure if it's kind of if you have it further enough inside, is that you could get a
Hmm.
little cup and put water into the cup, and then actually like um, because if you put the other end into a cup, is actually the air will obviously bubble the water,
Well,
so
right
you'll
apart.
know
Hmm.
that actually it's coming out, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and yeah, we would just do this. Like we would be everywhere. We'd go out, and you'd end up kind of doing it. You know, you'd have to do it in the restaurant. He'd like,
Yeah.
you know, and because sometimes you, there's just no way other way of doing it.
Hmm.
And so we would kind of, position it so that like no one would see and like, and all this. But those are the things that we did, and a lot of us do. And as dads, like, we we got to step up and do that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and just be part of it and make it happen, because it cannot all be on our wives to
Yeah,
do this.
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
um, and it is, and I think that's where like just being the dad and you know, um, getting stuck in, um, is so important, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
okay, it's was there like um the acceptance of all this going on? Acceptance is a journey.
Hmm.
It very much is a journey. I don't think my personal opinion is I don't think acceptance happens right away. Um, I think it's a journey. It takes time, and it looks different for everyone.
Hmm.
Um, how is how has that looked like for you on your with journey with your journey?
I, I think I agree 100% with you in terms of I think this comes in different stages, right?
Mm,
And you and I would discuss this a few weeks ago on our phone call. Is uh, you still don't know what's on those other stages, right? You're
yeah.
living kind of like the first or the second stage, and you're still on auto mode and reacting to a lot of what is happening.
Yeah.
I do have to say that the first year and a half was definitely the most difficult with all those
Mm,
cares that we had to have. Especially the fact that you cannot bring a nanny to take care of him because there's
mm,
a lot of things going on and you cannot trust
mm,
anyone to just perform all that stuff the same way that you're doing it, right? So
yeah.
I think it absorbs a lot of your time and efforts and energy
Yeah.
and it at some point it also I think yeah doesn't help your I guess your marriage, right? Because
Mm,
you're running all over the place. There's always something that you have to do with the kid. But
mm,
I think at that point, like I said, you never think about it until things get a little bit more settled.
mm,
When you're seeing progress, that all the therapies and the classes that the or and the additional classes that you are, I guess, bringing your kid to, like swimming, like
yeah.
uh, anything, right? That there you're trying to do additional to help him to create that core strength and all coordination.
Yeah.
Um, it's when you start to see, okay, this is going the right way, right? This is going good.
Mm,
Um, you start to feel, or at least that's my experience, right? You start to feel a little bit more um, typical, right?
mm,
Like
mm,
it's like, yeah, they are going at their own pace, but you start to see that they're walking, that they are feeding themselves, that they can grab a piece of fruit, that they can eat it like all the way. Again,
mm.
that's my experience,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
I started to see that he's throwing balls, that he's bouncing the ball. So I was like, okay, then it's it's not that it's not as it was painted, right?
Yeah, it's not. I think you were going to say it's not that bad.
It's not that bad, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I have to say that it's the way that doctors are painting the whole picture when you have the diagnosis, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's they paint you a lot of this picture of everything is bad. They cannot be doing anything
yeah.
by themselves. They're gonna live forever with you. So it's like, okay, that's fine. But
Mm,
then I guess at this point of or this stage of my life with Tiago, it's like everything is going right, right? Everything he's doing things at his own pace.
yeah.
But now we're transitioning into that preschool period, right? That
Mm,
he's going to be going to school because you have him on a controlled environment. You have him with his toys. Sometimes he's going with relatives, with his cousins, or with some friends. So it's he's very social. So he waves at everyone. He's pretty good with relationships with people.
yeah,
He's still trying to talk. So
yeah,
now we're getting into that period of, okay, now a lot of things are gonna surface, right, or come to the surface.
yeah.
Is he gonna be able to talk? Is he gonna be able to communicate?
Mm,
He has some vision problems, so he used glasses because he used to tilt his head a lot like this.
mm.
So we have been seeing a lot of either like PTs or ophthalmologists or any type of, you name it, right? We have been
Yeah, and that's a tricky one, isn't it?
everywhere.
That's a tricky because, like, I, um, eyesight is and hearing is one of these things that, like,
The tubes.
um, they're really difficult because if we go for a hearing test, you and I, we can be like, okay, yeah, I can hear that, I can let you know that I heard it, and if I can see it, I can tell you. Like, I mean, kids when they're very young anyway struggle to do that, but
Yeah.
you add in the fact that these children, like Tiago has Down syndrome, or whoever else, it makes it really difficult to be able to kind of work out whatever's been given to them is the right thing, um,
hmm
and if it's overcompensating or undercompensating or making it worse, like it's really tricky, and you're
Yeah.
like you start questioning, like, shit, like, is this like really, like, do we kind of, like, what's going on? Because Jamie has glasses, um
hmm
and how many pairs of glasses he's broken is, I've lost count now, but
yeah.
there's but that's another story. Uh but it's a very real thing because, like, obviously being able to see, helping our child see, is what you want that, right?
hmm
But there's that point of, like, okay, well, like, how do we know if this is actually really helping him? And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you're just, it's not a pun here, but you're literally going in blind into
hmm
this, aren't you?
hmm
And it's tricky.
It is. It is. It is tricky, and then that's when you start to question yourself, right? Or what's going to happen? But like
Mm,
I said, you have them on a controlled environment at home. You see what they're doing, but you know what's going on.
yeah,
But then once they're going to start school, they're going to be exposed to a bunch of things, right?
yeah,
Like typical kids
yep, that's right.
that could probably be bullying your kid because he's tilted, because he cannot see very well
Mm,
from afar, or things like that. That then it's when I guess you still looking for that acceptance or to kick
except,
in,
yes, yeah,
but at the same time it's like, ooh, how this is going to be, because I can protect him here, right? It's my son and I'm going to protect him
mm,
while he's here.
yeah,
But once he gets out of this house and he goes to school, he goes to classes, he goes to whatever him gymnastic classes, he has friends.
mm,
What's going to happen, right?
yeah.
He's
It's
going to be by
totally out of your
himself
it's totally out of your
and
hands,
totally
isn't
out
it?
of your control. But you think about it, and it's when I think it starts to kick in on, yes, my life is going to be a little different than probably other parents with typical kids.
Mm, mm,
But at the same time, I think in my case, I have accepted that
mm,
already. So I
mm,
know that my life is going to be different, um, and I'm willing to live that life with my kid that way,
Mm.
right? Regardless.
Yeah.
So I think that's a part that there's going to be always questions around how this
Yeah.
is going to be, how the scenario A, B, C, D will be when he's going everywhere.
Yeah.
But I think I definitely came into terms on this is not going to be easy.
Yeah.
This is not going to be um it's going to be a long road probably,
Yeah.
but I'm willing to just go there and do it for my kid, right?
Absolutely, and that's awesome. I'm really happy to hear that. What is has there been any, because obviously, you're a bilingual family, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so what have you had any doctors give you any guidance on this? Because we got guidance, well, bullshit guidance, I'll say. Um, and I'm interested to hear kind of what yours was, if you have
Yeah.
had any from medical professionals about language,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, how's that been?
Yeah. So it's one of those, I guess, weird things as well
Mm,
that you experience right along the
mm,
road because you take that for granted as well. It's like,
mm,
oh, I'm sure that he's going to speak multiple languages, right? Because wait,
mm.
we can speak this and that. So the information that we got, and this is a lot of coming from Jill, right, our speech therapist.
Right,
She's
right, yeah, yeah,
amazing, and she has been like our support here. Like
yeah,
she's yeah, she's our main, I guess, point of contact when we
yeah.
have anything or doubts because she's great. And one of the things that she mentioned to us is speak Spanish all
Mm,
the time.
yeah, right,
Um, he will learn it eventually, and obviously
yeah,
she's having more experience with kids with Down syndrome. She was like, he's gonna do it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
just be patient, and the other piece is like just teach him a really good Spanish because
yeah,
otherwise,
yeah.
they're gonna be speaking Spanglish as we call it, and uh, just make sure that he has really good basis. But
Mm,
yeah, coming from Dr. Probably when he was still a baby, you get a lot of different scenarios from them, right?
yeah,
And I think we mostly from doctors is, and
mm,
I don't have anything against doctors. I think they are great, but mostly from doctors is where you get all this information about no, they're not going to be able to do this or do that, or they're not going to be autonomous. So, and
yeah,
in my experience, that's a lot of what we receive from doctors. And
mm,
going back to therapists
yeah,
like Jill, like other therapists that have been helping us, there's always like this therapeutic approach, right? About yes,
mm,
they can do
mm,
it,
mm.
right? They can do this way, they can do this that way.
Yeah,
So the way that we're approaching it at the moment is we speak 100% Spanish to him
right, right,
here at
yeah.
home. Obviously, he has other therapists that speak English. Jill speaks Spanish, so it's also helpful
Oh, okay,
for
okay.
him to understand. But we have other therapists, and like his swimming classes and his gymnastic classes are in English. So one of the other things that we were really surprised about is that he obviously he cannot speak, right, but
Yeah,
he
yeah,
can understand both languages
yeah, yeah,
pretty good, pretty good. You
yeah,
can say the same things in English and Spanish, and he gets it. He knows what to do.
yeah,
So it's one of the other pieces that I think when we first started this journey, we were questioning ourselves if it was
yeah.
possible,
Okay.
if this was even
Mm.
possible, right?
Yeah, it's funny,
And
isn't it? Because I think it's an interesting point you make, because
mhm,
you in it with a typical with a we go back to that typical child, is that
yeah,
you would be like, well, we're just going to speak like whatever. You wouldn't even you might kind of, it might enter into the conversation about kind of what
mhm,
language you speak, right? But um, it's I feel that's a less of a conversation that you would have compared to the situation that with having a child with special needs, right?
mhm,
Because you're
mhm,
like, and because at that stage you're potentially at, like, we are in a way thinking, well, can they do it,
yeah,
right? We're like, can they do this?
Yeah.
And that's real. That shit is real. Like,
Hmm.
and we like like that's why I think it's important to have those conversations because like um we I suppose we didn't think about it until we sat down with a doctor, and I can't remember who it was, what doctor it was, and he said, um, yes, I think you should just stick with one language and stick with Japanese, I think, and
Hmm.
and um, and I think me and Junko were just like, well, he said, yeah, it's just going to confuse them. I think he said something like, it's just going to
Hmm.
confuse them with two languages. And we're just like, oh, well, whatever. So it's and the big bird to that guy, because you know we just did what we felt was right, and I think what we've done is right, and he is
Hmm.
um, every day he surprises me. The other day, actually, he just said to me, like he finished or kind of half finished breakfast or dinner, and he was like,
Hmm.
he said, "Full, I'm full," like
A
this.
fool.
I'm like, did you just say I'm full? Like he's like, and he's like tapping his tummy like I'm full like this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was like, holy shit! Like he's just telling like, and it kind of reminded me of it. Kind of again, I think, man, like yeah, he picks up so much, but I know, and I know that he can do these things in Japanese as well because when he goes to school, and when I'm not at home, is he I think he switches to Japanese with Junko and the kids
Hmm.
because when I'm not around, it's all a lot of it is in Japanese.
Hmm.
But when I'm in the house, is like because my Japanese is woeful and it's shit house, so I'm just like I'm just English all the way, and so
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of English. Being an English teacher myself, so I kind of naturally um, gravitate towards it. Um, but yeah, we just got to be like, um, do what we feel is best, and if it's our native language, like Spanish is, and just speak Spanish or speak French or whatever the language is, right? Is
Yeah.
just do it because
Hmm.
um, as when they walk outside, is that their world is they're going to be exposed to English, which is you're in an English speaking country, so there's going to be that
Hmm.
around there as well. So they're going to get it from all sides. When my
Yeah.
son goes to school, it's all Japanese, right? So
Hmm.
I'm exposing him to the English side, and out there he's getting the Japanese. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I agree. I agree completely with you on. I think the best approach is the one that you think it's better for your kid, regardless of
yeah,
whatever professional advice you're getting, right?
yeah,
The other piece that we run into this is that he started or we started teaching him with Jill
yeah.
sign language.
Hi, Jill. By the
So
way,
that
I'm in contact with Jill.
so she definitely helped us a lot to for us to learn also sign language, right? To just say,
Right, right.
I want
Okay.
more, I'm done, uh, stuff like that that he still uses at this moment, and it's helping us along the road. So yeah, he can't speak yet, but he can communicate really well with signs.
That's
So
interesting.
that's another one.
That's a
Hmm.
fantastic one because I I was um uh I went to a seminar many years ago, and this is a little bit off point here, and
Hmm.
I may edit this out because I was like I was told, well, not told. I was said. They said, okay, what you should do. A good way of teaching English as a second language is using American Sign Language. And I was
Hmm.
like, hang on a sec. So hang on a minute. I need to learn American Sign Language, um, and because apparently American Sign Language is actually a little bit different from like British Sign Language and all, and all this kind of stuff. So I as a,
I'm not surprised about that.
I was like, what a complete, like, whatever. And so this was this idea of teaching sign language to teach a foreign language, to teach English as a foreign language. And I was like, oh, that to me, I was like, that doesn't sound like it didn't resonate with me. And that purely was my kind of take on it. And I suppose, I know I've heard people have said, that, have you taught Jamie sign language? And I've gone, no, I have not. We have not done this. And that has been our choice on this, which I think is always a really important thing to highlight. Is it's such a, like, everyone's journey is really different, and what we decide to do is really different. And there's really no right or fucking wrong with this, because, like,
Yep.
it is like we are doing what we believe and what we feel is the best for us, and it's what we can actually do, because we have so much on our plate. Like, there is a limit to how much we can do.
Yeah.
Like, try this, do that. Like, what do you think I am? Like, I am bloody human, for God's sake. Like, I'll do what I can. I've got the capacity to do this, and it's so interesting to hear that Jill goes into the kind of using, I guess it's the basic form of kind of sign language, like the simple stuff. It's not like the full.
Yeah, it's not the full sign
shebang.
language, but
like, I mean,
yeah.
So it's interesting to hear, and like I say, I'm going to hear more from Jill down the line on this. So okay, the acceptance is a journey. On that, have you ever blamed yourself though? Have you ever kind of gone, man, this, like, has there been anything that you've kind of,
To be honest, no. I don't want to sound like extremely positive, right?
No.
I think I've never blamed, like I said, either myself, my wife, or anybody else.
Yeah.
I do think we're religious people, so we definitely think that God has a plan for all of us.
Yep.
And I think he prepared us for this. But like you're saying, we try to do the best that we can.
Yeah.
It's great when you hear from other people that they admire all the stuff that you do. And like I think I told you the other day, of like, you're just taking care of your kids. It's the same thing that you will do for your loved ones and for your son, right? So for me, it's not something that someone I guess needs to recognize or say that I'm great by doing it, because it's not that. It's your kid. A lot of what we're trying to do as well, going back to this blaming or not blaming ourselves, it is what it is. This is the situation that we are at, and then you just try to make the most out of it, and try to enjoy it as well. I think if I've seen the two sides of it, right? Being with several groups or several people that goes along the same or around the same situation, and you have the ones that are blaming themselves all the time, and that this is really bad, and always playing that victim game, I guess. And then you have the other ones that are fully positive and that nothing's wrong, and then you have something in the middle, right? I try to stay somewhere in there in the middle, in terms of we know our life is different, but at the same time you have to enjoy it. You have to enjoy it, and you have to enjoy what you have, right?
Yes, you do.
And I think the kids are amazing, and
how do you do that? I want to, sorry, Edwin.
No, go ahead.
How do you do this? Because we talk about enjoyment of our lives, and enjoyment of our kids, and enjoyment of all these things. How we, like, there is a lot of additional anxiety that we can have with kids are raising. I know I do.
Hmm.
Um, and I know that I'm not alone in this, which
Hmm.
is why I do this. How do you keep yourself from going off the rails, from
Hmm.
going down that dark hole and feeling sorry for yourself or pity for yourself or however people might kind of see it, blaming yourself or whatever it is, like, and keeping yourself, keeping your sanity,
Yeah.
keeping yourself being like, okay, this is what I've got. It is what it is. We can say that.
Hmm.
It's easy to say. To be real and to be the dad that we want to be and to be human to ourselves. How do you do that? How do you do it on
Hmm.
a, like, how do you keep real? Like anything at all that you like to be the best dad that you,
Well,
like, mentally, physically.
I guess
How
mentally, and like I guess mentally, a lot of what I try to do is it's it's not play that victim role,
yeah.
right? And try to live a typical life.
Mm,
I'm still at that point that I know that my kid has Down syndrome,
yeah.
but at the same time, uh, I don't make any distinction, right?
Mm,
I probably share that with other people and say, yeah, my kid has Down syndrome, but if I go to a class with him to his swimming class, which I'm the one who's jumping in the pool, to his gymnastic classes, if we take him to the park, it's like a typical kid.
mm,
We're living a typical life,
yeah, yeah.
right? With some things that are different and adjustments, but we never do that distinction. Even though we know there are a couple of parents or kids that they look at him and it's like, okay, he looks a little different. We never, or I think at least for me, I never make that
Mm,
distinction because I don't want that to be perceived that victim game, right? So
yeah,
that gives me a lot of peace of mind in terms of, yeah, but he can do all this stuff, right?
yeah,
He
yeah.
can do the same thing as any typical kid. So for me, that gives me that peace of mind in terms of I'm not going to treat him any different.
Mm,
I know that there's, like I said, there's adjustments that we need to do,
yeah,
but here at home, he's a typical kid. We treat him as that. We ask him to do, you know, like tasks around the house, or let's do this, let's do that. Again, it's going to be different as other kids, but
mm, mm,
I'm surprised that every morning and something I must be doing wrong. But every time that I sit on the couch, he comes like right next to me. He grabs the remote and he wants to turn the TV on. So he knows that once I'm going to the couch, that's what I'm going to do, right? So he's that smart. So for me, I guess that also gives me that peace of mind that
mm,
everything is fine. That I don't have to go do the extra mile because he cannot understand what we're doing or why we're
mm,
doing something.
yeah,
Again, and that's probably just my situation. And on the on the physical side, the other pieces I think I told you, but exercising is one of my passions.
yeah,
Right, since I was a little kid, I used to play soccer. Then I moved to play basketball. And then now I do CrossFit. So it's something that I always try to do, just to be active and doing something,
mm,
that you really enjoy. I'm all about team sports. I love basketball, and I used to play when I was back in college and in high school. So I'm so used to be surrounded by other people that are supporting you, right?
yeah,
They are that supporting cast. So that's how I think I cope with the situation. That I try to not blame
yeah.
anybody, neither myself. It's
That's good.
definitely the
It's good.
situation.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, like, exercise is good. I'm actually trying to. I'm not really consciously trying to do a bit more. I'm just doing. I'm not going crazy. I'm just doing. Put it this way: if I go back like 3 months back to last, even just to last year, I'm doing like so much more than what I was doing last year. I was doing like basically bugger all last year.
Hmm.
So I'm actually really daily trying to do something, walking faster. I'm trying to do went down some kind of rabbit hole yesterday about doing star jumps, 100 star jumps a day, like but the reality is that doing some kind of physical exercise really helps us mentally, because
Mhm.
it allows us to be able to, deal with situations that we as dads find ourselves in, and
Yep.
we need to be able to be in the best headspace possible to be able to deal with these. And so exercise is a massive part of that, and
Yeah.
it's really good to hear. What about just taking time for you, like something which
Yeah.
is just you can go and do it. You've got whether it's a couple of hours or a day or whatever. What is something that you love doing just for you? Like, is there anything like
Yeah. There's a couple of things that I love to do by myself. One of them is shopping. I love shoes. I have to say that I love shoes. I cannot show you that I have a full wall here of shoes, but I do like sneakers. I'm a sneakerhead,
You're
so
a
that's one
sneakerhead,
of the
right?
things.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I enjoy the most. Uh, go to the store, check
Do you
what's
wear
in
them all? Do
there.
you wear them, or do you
No,
just?
some of them. That's a constant, I guess, problem with my wife. Is like, why do you have so many shoes if you're
Yeah,
not gonna wear them? So it's like, oh, I don't know. There's something that
yeah.
I'm attached to them since I was a little kid, right? So it's
Okay,
one
so
of the things
you've
that
always been like that.
yeah,
You've
yeah,
always
yeah,
loved shoes, right? Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Well, obviously when I was a kid, it was a little bit more difficult, right? Because your parents need to approve and have the money to pay for those shoes that you wanted.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then back in the day, living in Mexico, there was not a lot of variety of models or the Jordans. It was really hard to get them.
Right.
So when I got my hands on those, it was really difficult to convince my parents to buy me a shoe. So once I started working, I was like, I think I
It was
can
game
buy
on, wasn't it? It
shoes.
was just game on.
Yeah, and
It's
I think
like,
a lot of my money went there, and now I'm making Thiago a sneakerhead as well. So I'm buying a couple of shoes for him as well. But
that's
that's one of
hilarious.
the things that I do definitely enjoy doing
Yeah.
my by myself. One of the other things that I definitely love is um, to go to a basketball game. Now that I live
Right.
here in Chicago, I get the chance to go to watch the Bulls. Sometimes with some other friends, but that's something that I do really enjoy as well.
That's cool.
Watching sports. Like I told you last week, I was in Florida for work, and
Yep.
I bought some tickets since the Miami Heat was playing. So I was like, yep, I'll go and do it. So I try to just do a
Yeah.
lot of that stuff by myself.
How do you
Been
feel when
try
you do that kind of stuff? How do you feel, Edwin, when you do these things, like when you go
Mhm.
buy those shoes
I,
and
I think it's
you go
it's it's
hunting for them and you kind of like, because it's the hunt. I guess it's the hunt, right? For the
it's a
shoes.
hunt. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Uh,
Um, what is
yeah.
it that really, and the basketball, watching that game, how do you feel? Because these are the things that, like, it's those feelings as to how we feel when we're doing those things. I'm interested to hear if you can kind of.
Sure, sure. I think what I feel is a lot of a feeling of freedom, if I can call it like
Yeah.
that, right?
Yep.
Because you you- you're focusing your attention on something that you really enjoy and that you really like to do, right? Uh, it's gonna sound bad probably, but there are things that during our parental life, going through this situation, is that you don't enjoy, to be
Yeah.
honest, right?
Yep.
As a parent, as much as you love your kid, you went through some things that you didn't enjoy at all, right? So I guess that feeling of probably freedom, that you were doing something that you love to do, and it's also, I think, a feeling of accomplishment, right? When you get the chance to do whatever you want, it's also
Yeah.
such a good feeling, right? Such a relief feeling on I do this because I like to, not because I have to.
Yeah.
So I think that's a lot of of the feeling that I can tell you I feel when I go to this, and it's something that I loved for years.
Mm.
Um, and coming from Mexico, and my childhood was really good, right? I had a pretty decent childhood, but coming from there, there are things that you dream about, and you think that are only going to happen in dreams.
Mm.
And the fact that now I'm able to do it,
Mm.
that I'm actually living in the States, that I'm actually going to a basketball game, things that I used to just watch on TV and that I was dreaming about, now that I'm capable of doing it, it's such a sense of accomplishment, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
in that end, that I definitely enjoy it even more because I know how much I work to do that, right? And that I didn't
Mm.
think that I was going to be able to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's
Mhm.
cool. That's awesome. Okay. What's let's talk. It's kind of want to talk about laughter now.
Mhm.
What is something that kind of happened with you know, could be with Tiago or not? Um,
Mhm.
something that made you, yeah, just like have a good laugh, because I really think that um laughter is really important. It is a
Yeah.
very important thing um to do for us, because sometimes we don't laugh enough.
Mhm.
Um yeah. So what about you? What what kind of makes you when was the last time you had a really good laugh?
I think I'm having some problems with my camera, so I'm trying to fix that.
That's okay.
Uh,
That's okay. Yeah. Yep. That's all
but
right.
uh, I think that the last good laugh that I had with Tiago, it was actually a few hours ago.
Oh, right. Oh, nice and fresh
I
then.
Yeah, I came back from work, and he loved every time that I just step into the door, he's kind of like running towards me, right?
Mm.
And he's screaming da 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 da, and and the first thing that he wants to do is just to play, right?
Mm.
So I tend to scream a lot, and he's always copying what I'm doing, right?
Right.
If I'm screaming, he starts screaming. So it's so funny that my wife even have to come to us and say, you guys are so annoying, because we're laughing and we're screaming and we're playing around, and and yeah, I think sometimes we could be a little bit annoying. And my wife, come on, guys. But it's one of the things that I enjoy the most doing with him, right? When he's mimicking everything that I'm doing,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's amazing. So I think that's the one that I can tell you. And the other thing is every morning, right? Even
Mm.
though he's waking up at 5:30, 6 a.m. He always has a smile and a kiss and a hug to for both of us,
Mm.
and we laugh about it, not because it's not it is a sweet moment, but
Yeah.
the fact that he's always doing it constantly, and he knows how to pull the trigger on us, right? So
Yeah.
I laugh because it's like they are so smart. They're so smart because they know how to pull the strings to
Yeah.
everything and make
Uh,
you laugh.
that's cool. That is good. That's really good. What
Let me.
like what what is like I have a
Mhm.
dad. Oh, actually, sorry. Before I go to there, um, I know we got what I have a dad playlist that I put up onto Spotify of a
Mhm.
couple of songs that mean something to every dad. They could be songs
Mhm.
that the dad likes or the songs that the kids like. What does music look like for you? Oh, you're back. I can see you now. There we
Yeah.
go.
Perfect. Technology as always, like I said.
um, What is music? What what part does it play in your world?
A huge one. He loves music, and it's something that it was part recommended, but also my wife, she was so into always, putting some music to either teach him anything, right? And
Mm.
now with all the songs that are around Spotify about, jump, touch your knees, your toes, your head. So it's we started doing it a little bit more, right? So now that he's more conscious about that, that plays a huge role because he loves to dance. He's a dancer. So every time that there's music on, he starts dancing all over the place, moving, and now he's doing even more like funny movements, and that's when we also have a good laugh because he's doing all over the place. So it's definitely a pivotal part of our lives now, music.
Yeah.
Uh, we also have to you can see now my Spotify playlist, and it's just Cocomelon and a bunch of other ones. Every time that you jump into my car and just plug your phone, instead of having any hip hop songs, there's always Cocomelon, right? So sometimes I'm
Coco,
even joking.
hang on,
Yeah,
Coco Melon. Can like let's. I'm just gonna um try and Coco C O.
yeah, COCO.
Oh, here we go. Coco Melon. I got it. Here we go. Okay.
Yeah,
Is it?
yeah,
It's an artist, right? Here we go. Oh, here we
yeah.
go. Okay. Let's
That's his
Here we
favorite
go.
song. Yeah, Wilson the Boss. Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Should we put that one onto the dad's playlist?
yeah,
Yeah, we'll
yeah,
put that onto the.
definitely. So
Okay.
your kid can't just start to do this because he wants the Wilson the Boss.
For those who can't see.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
um, okay, that's actually that's funny. Okay, so that's clearly a play. That's one for him. What about you? What about kind of when you're in the car, you're on your own, and you just want to hear a good old like a great song that you love. What is one?
We had the chance to go a few years ago when we first moved here to Chicago to go and see Post Malone. I don't know if you have heard of him. He's a
Po-
kind of like a rap hip hop star.
okay,
Post
Post
Malone. Post
Post Post.
Malone.
Oh, here you
Yep.
go. Post Malone. I got him. Here we go. Thank you, Spotify.
Hmm.
Yep, we're on good form today. Um, okay, I've got him here. Okay, so what is a song that you just
Song. Congratulations. That's one.
okay? Congratulations. That's a here we go. Oh, here we go. I've got it. Here we go. Okay. Here we go.
Yeah, it gets
Okay.
me
Okay.
started to have a good workout as well.
Oh, this is a here we go. Oh, rock and roll,
Yeah.
man. All right, I'm gonna throw this straight away. I'm gonna I'm gonna put them straight away onto the
That's
dad's
playlist.
playlist right here, along with the wheels on the bus.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Awesome.
definitely plays a huge part of our lives now. Like if
Mm.
you come to my house, the
Yeah,
first thing that you're gonna hear
that's the welcome song.
is the welcome song,
Or the wheels on the
Cocomelon,
bus.
Wheels on the Bus, or Baby Shark, or anything like that. I'm sure it's gonna be played here. Yeah.
That's cool. That's great. Okay. Um, this let's lastly I'm going to end with here. Uh, what are four words that sum up your life as dad to Tiago?
4 words.
Yeah.
Um, I think courage, um, persistence,
Mm-hmm.
love,
Mm-hmm.
and I think oof, that fourth one I would say could be resilience.
Mm.
Hmm.
Awesome. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
I would
Yeah.
say that those were definitely describe my life since
Yeah.
Tiago arrived to this world.
Yeah. That's great.
Hmm.
Man, Edwin, thank you for sharing your journey, and it is, of course, it is a journey that is continuing,
Yeah.
um, because that's what it's like, right? It's just one big journey, and
Hmm.
so it's great to hear. And we've talked about a lot. We've,
Yeah.
you know, but and you know, I suppose there's one thing. If you could like um if you could give yourself advice, one piece of advice going back to day one when you you when you found out that your life was going to be going in a different direction to where you thought it was going to be going. If there's any advice that you could whisper in your ear, if you is there any advice or you wouldn't? I don't know. What is that?
I think the first one that I wouldn't do is listen to a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about, right? In terms of what Down syndrome is.
Mm,
And I think another piece that I would do if I can go back to day one is be prepared, do your research,
mm-hmm,
and do the best that you can. I think that'll be my advice to me if I can go to day one. Is like just
mm,
do the best that you can. Get prepped. It's gonna be hard, but you're gonna make it.
awesome. Edwin, thanks, man. Thank you very much for
No,
sharing, and
thank you,
it's great. I love
thank you
hearing
very much,
hearing
mate. No,
the dad.
thank you for the invite. Really happy that I had the chance to have a really good chat with you, and um, I guess share a little bit of my story.
Yeah,
Hopefully, this can get some to other parents to try to talk a little bit more about it and talk about their journey.
yeah.
And yeah, that's I guess why we're here for, right? To just try to open ourselves
That's
and spread the word.
that's exactly right.
Mhm.
To hear like for the dads to be heard more because men are heard a lot more
Mhm.
in other circles. Sometimes we're
Yeah.
heard way too much and we're way too loud. We don't let
Mhm.
women have have a fair show at that.
Yeah.
Um, this is one area that we um, uh, often we are very very quiet in, and which is interesting. As a
Mhm.
dads generally are quieter than mums,
Yeah.
um, and I think that having and when we have children that need more help, we are even quieter
Yeah.
because you know, well, some of the we've spoken about a lot of the reasons today, um, and it's because we just don't quite know how to deal with it. We don't quite know what we want to be. We don't. It's not where we plan to be.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, but it's great that you've been able to share your journey and your story and be honest and open and real about it because I think you that's where it makes the connection
Yeah.
with other dads listening and mums listening who will be like, man, that's kind of how my husband is, and like
Yeah.
those that that's that can be really helpful. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
great.
No, I want to share something like really quick. Um, since last week I was, like I told you, I was in Florida, and then I
Mm,
have one of my coworkers. Um, she has a kid that is around the same age as Tiago,
mm,
but he was diagnosed with um, autism.
right, okay.
Still a very young age to be diagnosed, but
Mm,
that's where everything it's leaning towards.
mm,
And I told her about me being here with you, sharing
mm,
my story on the podcast, right? And one of the good things that came around that conversation is like, let me know when this is on air, right? Because
Mm,
I think also my husband needs to needs
mm,
to vent probably a little bit about that. He has been really um, stressed out. He's still dealing with it as well. It's not their
mm,
first child, but they have other kids, but they also go through the same things, right, as us,
mm,
right? Still a little bit of the denial, but he being as us, the dads, we
mm,
rarely talk about that. And it was
mm.
something that he was mentioning a lot to me, right? Like he rarely talks about it. And I think it'll be really helpful to hear your story so he can be a little bit more open and know that
Yeah,
it's okay to talk about it.
yeah, and you're and it's great. It's so good to hear. Like it's like, man, I get when as you were telling that there, I was just like getting that kind of the 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 fuzzies, man, because it's just um the one of the first steps I think is actually being able to listen,
Mm-hmm.
ironically, listen to other dads and be able to kind of tune in and be like, okay, like I'm just gonna have a listen to this. Like I'm just gonna that's that's the first bloody step.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time is
Yeah.
actually being able to hear someone else because you feel like you're in this world and you are so alone and you almost kind of psych yourself into that world that I am alone and there
Mm-hmm.
is no one else out there that is going to understand me. And so you just like you start to believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I started to believe I was like for years I
Mm-hmm.
started to believe that I was just I actually honestly believed that I was the only foreigner in Japan with a who was married to Japanese who had a Down syndrome child. I swear to God, I was like I'm the only one in a
Yeah.
country of 120 million people. I am the only one who is that. I had convinced myself that that was it,
Yeah.
and it's a dangerous place to be. It is a
Yeah.
very dangerous
Definitely.
place to be because
Yeah.
you you can just go down that kind of feeling the blame, feeling sorry for yourself and all that kind of and all that stuff, right?
Yeah,
It's a
no, I
very
agree. I
dangerous place
agree,
to
and
be.
it's great that you have this space, right, for all of us as parents to also share our stories and open ourselves a little bit more.
Yeah,
Which, like you said, I think it's something that we need to do more often and see that whether there's other people that goes uh, around the same things as we, and we're still here, right? We have survived.
yep,
We have dealt with it. So yeah, no, just wanted to mention that because I
yeah,
think I when I talked to her, I think she found that really powerful, right? On something that she was living with
mm,
um her her husband,
mm,
and we don't get to talk a lot about that, right?
no,
And it's great that we can just spread the word and say, hey, it's
yeah,
fine to feel like that. It's fine to talk about it. And I
yeah,
mean,
and
we're
it's
here,
okay,
right?
and because all we need to do is we just need people to just to listen.
Yep.
That's all
Yep.
we need,
That's
and we
right.
don't, and we, you know, and not judge, and not
Mm-hmm.
be like, well, I don't think that's how you should feel. No, that is how I feel. Like, don't disregard how I feel because that's the worst thing that can happen is like,
Exactly.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and listening is like being able to just listen and be like, okay, while I don't agree with that, that's okay. But
That's okay.
that's
Mm-hmm.
that is how this person is. That's how this guy feels. That
Mm-hmm.
shit is real. And if you
Yeah.
disregard that shit, you are disregarding him 100%, and he's not,
Yeah.
and moving forward from that becomes uh, really, really difficult.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree on that.
Yeah,
So let's, again, I think it's great to have this kind of forums to just um, express ourselves.
yeah,
So yep, happy to spread the word around, and glad again, thankful that you had me on your space to share my story, and looking forward to collaborate
yeah.
probably in a couple of months if there's anything else that I can
Awesome.
definitely do.
Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
it's evolving. Everything's changing. Like going into the preschool and all that kind of stuff. Like those
Yeah.
pose challenges for us, right? They
Mm-hmm.
pose real world challenges for us. How do
Yeah.
we? like leaving our kids alone with other people for 6 hours a day, or
Yeah.
whatever. That's that again. It's real, and it's tricky for us. It's
Hmm.
quite tricky.
Yeah.
Anyway, mate, it's been awesome. It's been so
Thank you
good.
very much.
All
Thank
right.
you very much. Take
Thanks,
care,
man.
mate. Bye bye.